darlings. How are y'all doing? Well, 17 years ago this month, I came before this august gathering and suggested that maybe the ancients had something to teach us. I spoke a bit about the funeral oration that Pericles offered to the Athenians on the precipice of the war with Sparta, the Peloponnesian War. And was he able to speak to us across 23 or so 100 years? I suggested that he was, and so launched a book club. We study the great books of the Western world that has met on a regular basis down to this day. So what are we going to do on our Coronacation, ladies and gentlemen of the jury? I've got a few suggestions. I think that this is an appropriate time to take the lemon and make lemonade. Maybe to look back over our shoulder and see if our forebears have anything to tell us, and even some of our contemporaries. So I'll offer you a few books. It was Socrates who said the unexamined life is not worth living, but it is more richly examined when we can examine it through the prism of the accumulated wisdom. He did that in a work called The Apology, which Plato authored, Plato having witnessed his defense to the Senate in Athens. That was one of the first things we read in my Great Books group. I recommend it to you. I recommend also, if you're interested and you have a larger chunk of time than perhaps you had before, one of the books that my youthful offspring recommended to me. Noah was nagging me to read East of Eden for years. In high school, we read Grapes of Wrath, Of Mice and Men, but there is something rich in East of Eden. It involves at heart the dynamic tension between two brothers and their father. And in essence, it talks to us about the power of choice. And no matter what you've done, you always have the power today to choose good over evil. An amazingly powerful book. Another book that we read in my Great Books group was Anna Karenina. If you loved, maybe you've been threatening to read War and Peace, and you have a choice between that and Anna Karenina, I recommend Anna Karenina. It starts with this memorable line: all happy families are alike. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Some years ago, one of our DTMs and former president of the National Speakers Association Tampa chapter, Gordy Allen, told us that one of the most powerful books he'd ever read was Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl, the author, had been a psychiatrist who had been placed in Auschwitz. And what he teaches us is, and resonates with us today, Frankl teaches us that sometimes you cannot control what the world throws at you, but you can always control how you respond. They can't take that from you. And he noted that people who embraced that, who stayed positive, they tended to survive. My father had a portion of his brain carved out by small-town physicians searching for a brain tumor that never existed. The result was as if he'd had a massive stroke. He had to relearn how to talk, and he only had an arsenal of a few dozen words. He had to relearn how to walk, but he was a Viktor Frankl guy. You never met a more upbeat person. I recommend that book to you, Toastmasters. If you're interested in something about mountain men, a nitty-gritty book, used to be required reading In some schools in Montana, the big sky. This is the way it really was with mountain men. My stepfather gave me that when I was in junior high. It was a gift. Something a little more current, Brian Grazer's book. You know, the producer who's responsible for Apollo 13, the Da Vinci Code, A Beautiful Mind. He wrote this incredible book called Curious Mind. And what he does is he attributes his success to his habit of asking questions. You know, when people are talking, we're just waiting for our opportunity to get our piece in. Rather than make his point, what Grazer likes to do is just ask more questions. And he said it has so enriched his life and made him the success that he is. Aristotle said that it is the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without accepting it. Here we are in Toastmasters, and few of us realize that the grand master of all Toastmasters was Aristotle himself, who in his book Rhetoric teaches us about ethos, pathos, and logos. We weave that into the fabric of every single successful speech that we offer to our fellow Toastmasters. You want the real Toastmasters manual? Go back 2,300 years to the golden age of Greece and read Aristotle's Rhetoric. Well, you know, it wasn't all books. I have used this time, fellow Toastmasters, to marinate in just some marvelous poetry. And oh my goodness, there you are. I only have a minute left. So I'll share with you, when the rodents were young, I used to pull two of them and push two of them, and I would just recite poetry to them from memory. And it was such a marvelous thing. They got their monster check before they went to bed, and then they got their poems. And I'll give you the final lines of one from Omar Khayyam 1,000 years ago. The moving finger writes, and having writ moves on, nor all your piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all your tears wash out a word of it. Choose well, and let's make the most of this time. Thank you.
Great close.